All right, today we're going to learn how to think like a history detective. We're going to dive into the stories that are hidden right under our feet by learning how to think like an archaeologist. So, when you hear the word archaeology, what's the first image that pops into your head? For a lot of us, it's probably some adventurer in a cool hat raiding tombs for gold. And look, that makes for an awesome movie, but the reality? It's way more scientific, and honestly, it's a lot more interesting than just hunting for treasure. Okay, so first things first, let's clear up a super common mix-up. Archaeologists study the human past. They look at the stuff that people left behind. Paleontologists, on the other hand, they're the ones who study fossils, and that means dinosaurs. So if you dig up a T-Rex bone, you're a paleontologist. But if you dig up an ancient pot, that's when you're an archaeologist. It's a really important difference. So, what is it really? Well, you could say archaeology is the science of us. It's the scientific study of past human cultures, and we do it by looking at the clues, the evidence that people have left for us. It's about piecing together the story of a place, especially for cultures that didn't leave behind any written records.
To pull this off, to do this detective work, archaeologists have a whole set of tools and principles they follow, and it all starts with learning how to read the ground itself, long before a single shovel breaks the earth.
The main clues that archaeologists work with are called artifacts, and this is a really broad category. See, an artifact is basically anything that was made or even just used by people. It could be an ancient tool, a broken piece of pottery, or 1,000 years from now, it could be the coffee cup you threw away this morning. Every single one is a tiny clue about how people lived their lives.
And this brings us to one of the most important ideas in all of archaeology, stratigraphy. Just imagine a town being built and lived in for hundreds of years. Then it gets abandoned, buried by dirt and dust. Later, a new town is built right on top of it. Well, over thousands of years, you end up with all these different layers. Archaeologists read these layers, or strata, just like a layer cake of history. The oldest stuff is usually way down at the bottom, and the newest is right up top.
So, here's the absolute key takeaway. For an archaeologist, context is everything. Finding a Roman coin is cool, for sure, but finding that same coin inside a specific layer right next to some cooking pots and the foundation of a house, well, that tells you a much bigger story. Taking an artifact without recording exactly where you found it is like ripping a page out of the only copy of a history book. The meaning is just gone, forever.
So how do archaeologists even practice this stuff? I mean, you can't just go digging up historical sites for practice. Well, to get a feel for the process, trainees often use simulated digs. Let's imagine a shoebox filled with different layers of sand and soil, and each layer has its own set of tiny artifacts. How would you go about excavating it to figure out the story?
You definitely wouldn't just dump it all out, right? No, you'd follow a strict scientific method. First, you'd map the surface and draw a grid over it. Then, you would dig so carefully, one layer at a time, keeping everything from each layer together to preserve that precious context. You would record absolutely everything, drawing, photographing, documenting the exact location of every single find. Because the final and most important step is taking all that data back to the lab to piece the story together.
And this gets to a really wild, kind of mind-blowing idea in archaeology. The very act of digging a site up, of excavating it, actually destroys it. You can never, ever put those layers back exactly the way they were. And that is why the careful, almost obsessive recording isn't just a good idea, it's an absolute ethical necessity.
Okay, so you've done the hard part. You've carefully dug up your artifacts, you've recorded their context perfectly. Now, how in the world do you turn a pile of dusty objects into a story about who lived there?
This is where the real brain work kicks in. It's all about separating two things, observation and inference. Observation is just the facts. It's what you can see, measure, and describe. This is a round, flat piece of copper. That's it. Inference, though, that's the story you build from those facts. It's your educated guess. This might be a form of money. A great archaeologist knows the difference, and they're always clear about which one they're talking about. Let's try it out with a really simple artifact from our own time, a penny. Okay, what can we observe? What are the facts? Well, it's made of metal, it has letters and numbers on it, there's a picture of a big building. Now, what can we infer from that? What's the story? The metal suggests these people could mine or trade. The text, it points to a written language, maybe even an education system. That building suggests they built large, important public structures, and the word liberty, that suggests freedom was a really important cultural value. It's pretty incredible how much story can be packed into one tiny everyday object.
And that's exactly why artifacts are so powerful. They're what we call primary sources. See, unlike a history book that was written hundreds of years after the fact, an artifact is a little piece of the past itself. It's first-hand information, untouched by later opinions, giving us the most direct connection we can possibly have to the people who made it and used it.
But having that direct connection to the past comes with a huge, huge responsibility. It's not about owning cool old objects, it's about being a caretaker for them.
You know, responsible archaeology is guided by a very strict set of principles. At its heart, it's about being a steward of our shared human story. It's a total commitment to a scientific process that respects the past and makes sure that evidence is preserved for future generations, not just hunting for shiny treasures.
So if there's one code you should take away from all this, it's this. Real archaeology is a science, not a treasure hunt. It's about studying history and culture, not about finding riches. And maybe most importantly, it's about protecting these things, because once they're gone, they're gone. It's our job to protect them so we can all keep learning from our shared past.
And that kind of leaves us with one last big thought to chew on. Think about the stuff in your room right now, in your backpack, maybe even in your trash can. 1,000 years from today, if an archaeologist uncovers those things, what story will your artifacts tell about you? And what will they say about the world that you lived in?